Welcome back to another episode of the MonkRealtyShow. We've had a lot of different guests on the show, including real estate developers, operators, finance providers. But today, for the first time, we have someone from the real estate academics industry. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Dr. Michael Waters onto the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yep, thank you for inviting me. Yep.
Fantastic. For the people who are listening at home, would you mind giving a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So as you say, I'm Dr. Michael Waters. I'm an associate professor in real estate here at Heriot-Watt University in Dubai. I've been in academia for close to 20 years, both in the UK and Dubai. I'm a chartered surveyor by qualification as well, so I've got practical experience, and I try and blend those two worlds together when I deliver my lectures. So
Fantastic.
Probably me in 30 seconds.
Fantastic. Also, he's also written a fantastic book about real estate in Dubai, which we're going to talk about as well. But let's maybe start on the academic aspects of real estate itself, right?
Yep.
I've been in real estate PropTech for about a decade now, and I've always felt that the role of academics is really understated, right, in the real estate industry. It's really hard to imagine someone who's building AI not being trained on computer science, or someone who's in the biotech industry will not academically trained to be in biology or in the biotech industry. But we don't quite notice that in real estate, right? So we have people with MBAs and people with a lot of other academic backgrounds who make their way into real estate.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that is so?
So I think, one of the advantages of real estate as a sector is that it is diverse and it is accepting of those different backgrounds, and I think most thriving industries should allow that. I think in terms of the relationship between academia and real estate and why that link isn't made as apparent, it's because as individuals, as we go through our life, our most common interaction with the real estate sector is through a broker, is through leasing or parents buying a house or us buying a house. So when we say we've got an educational program on real estate, there's a bit of confusion there of what that means. And I would in a very simple terms, an MSc in real estate is like any other master's level business degree. We're getting students to think about the strategic elements, the financial appraisals, the economics behind real estate as our asset class that the degree focuses on. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And let's say a student who kind of takes up a course in real estate, what is kind of included in the curriculum? What are they actually going to be learning?
Okay, so broadly speaking, as I say, to link it back to what I just said about it being a business degree, there's courses on economics, so things around how cities form, how cities develop, rents within a city, and how that evolves over time, the forces of change that disrupt those common economics. We then have courses on how assets are valued, how buildings are valued, how people are making investment decisions through investment appraisal, how buildings are built, so the building technology. Obviously, the operational phase of real estate is a really important one. So the asset management, how strategic we can be in terms of managing the assets that get built. And then we do look at more forward-looking trends, so things around topics of sustainability is kind of embedded across the program, and we also have, specifically at Heriot-Watt, introduced a data analytics course because we want the students to come out with an ability to take these new forms of information that we can all capture, technologies that capture them, but we want the graduates to be able to give advice based off those outputs. So we want them to be not worried about being taken over by technology, but working with technology and providing better advice through that utilization.
Oh, that's really interesting, especially the part about consuming data. Hits very close to home for us, and I say that because even as a software platform, we collect and generate a lot of data, but many of our customers are incapable of building insights on top of that.
Yeah.
Right. So they of course have access to dashboards and reports and things like that. But then we mentally think, oh, with this data you can make these business decisions, but on the ground it doesn't quite happen. because they don't know how to action on top of data that they already possess, right?
Yeah.
So that makes a very, very interesting case. Now let's talk about Dubai and UAE in general, right? And the real estate market over here. So you've been here for more than a decade now, right? And you've been looking at the real estate industry here very closely. What do you think a couple of things that the rest of the world should learn from the real estate industry in Dubai?
Okay. So I think as I've probably written about in my book, one of the strengths of Dubai has been the governance, the visionary development of Dubai has been really fascinating. And one of the things I think the benefits Dubai is the much longer term rule that's in place, and so therefore the vision can be much longer term. And in any good business, success happens when we have a much more stable strategic plan. And I think if we look at the Dubai 2040 plan as the blueprint of where Dubai is going to be in the future, that should be giving people confidence about what this city will look like. In other markets, you can have very short-term political change that disrupt anything that's done previously. And I think Dubai, from a governance perspective, is that's a real, I think, a key driver and enabler to that. I think as a city, or again slightly around regulation, there's been open ears to criticisms, and they've been quick to improve regulation. And again, a lot of the areas that are important for real estate investors would be data transparency. Recently in 2022, Dubai's moved into the transparent status. So that just, things like the open data platform that DLD have made available allows people to make much more informed decisions, which helps with price volatility and reducing price volatility. It reduces speculation and all the things that essentially damage real estate markets. That's been good. And as a city, as a whole, it's got I would call it an open city. It's accepted. 90% of the population is expatriate. It's accepted the view that if you want to have access to the economy here, there's these rules that you follow. The businesses follow those rules. And it's very clear. But again, the openness of that is something that not all governments follow. So I think those would be my three areas that I would say other countries could perhaps learn.
Fantastic. And what do you think is something that Dubai can learn from other parts of the world?
Okay. I mean, I think linking in with the previous answer, being open to criticism and seeing where we can learn from other markets. So of course you can't improve the transparency of your real estate market without seeing what other markets are doing and being able to respond to that, and actually probably giving investors a better data set than where my home market now, whereas previously I would say it was the other way around. I also think that again, the speed of regulation, the speed of change, the speed of adaptation has been strong. Historically, Dubai kind of had this vision, if we go back to visions, of wanting to be the best, and it still has the vision of wanting to be the best city in the world. So naturally it would look at other markets, and there's links to certain countries historically that have led to say, well, what is that city? Why is that city successful? Why is London successful? Why is New York successful? Let's try and create that within our location, but let's also do it in a way that respects the region that we're in. So I think it's naturally had to learn from other countries, but in some areas it's probably now surpassing. Because of, as I say, the key area would be the long-term governance, the visionary blueprint that allows them to do.
No, fair enough. And I think talking about Dubai itself and touching upon the point of governance and the fact that the governance here thinks in decades, right? And not just years. Sustainability is such a core focus for the government here, and like for the leadership here.
Yeah.
In the real estate world, sustainability is a topic that we've been talking about like for a long time, right? How would you make a case to a real estate developer that now is the time to actually move on sustainability?
Yeah, okay. No, I think there's some interesting evolutions. And again, one of the commentary that I put forward to this towards the end of my book, there's two chapters. One is on sustainability and one is on smart cities. And they both come under the sort of future directions. Where is Dubai heading? And what's driving that growth? And in the sustainability chapter, I would say that because it's a relatively young city, because we've already started to see high grade, highly rated sustainable buildings like ICD Brookfield Place on the ground.
Yeah,
there's an opportunity for Dubai to capture the ESG compliant occupiers. So global businesses all now want to be ESG compliant. They want to be in the best buildings. And another area of the book is about attracting more institutional capital to Dubai, which is something historic that Dubai hasn't been able to do for various reasons. But one of the opportunities would be if we start building these and developers start putting single owned, grade A, LEED Platinum or highly rated sustainable buildings on the ground, there's going to be appetite from institutional capital, which would be a new phase for Dubai's growth. And I also think from a regulatory perspective, and maybe more on the residential side as well, we're starting to see building classification programs take place whereby landlords of those buildings that are green or sustainable can actually increase their rents to a higher proportion within a district compared to a building that might not be compliant. So I think
do you feel that even in the residential space, like tenants are starting to think about sustainability? Do you think tenants will pay a premium?
I think there's a generation of environmentally conscious decisions, and I think yes, the building classification isn't all about sustainability. It's about the merits of the building and how it's managed. But sustainability will naturally be part of that management. You'll have an audience who'll be willing to pay higher rents to be in buildings that give them those attributes. So I do think both the residential and the commercial sector will have appetite. A couple of the case studies in the book are to do with Sustainable City and District or Expo City, as it's now called, District 2020, as sort of exemplar models. And I think we'll grow from those types of projects, and we'll start to see it becoming more mainstream, because the world is all signing up to have much more environmentally conscious buildings. And the real estate, as we know, is such a an important part, and it goes from management to development to the occupier demand. But the occupier demand is indicating these are the buildings that we want.
I think that makes a really strong case, and that was it's a takeaway for me as well, because I've been tracking sustainability in real estate for a few years now, right?
Yeah.
And there is a lot of movement around ESG, and we can see that like happening a lot more in the West, but I think it's kind of like making its way towards the East as well. But that makes a very clear case, right? Saying, hey, unless your building is sustainable, unless it meets these ESG requirements, these corporate occupiers are not going to come, and they're simply going to pay more than any other occupier that you can find in the market. That makes a very clear case, right? Saying, hey, this is the reason why you need to move on sustainability right now. So that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a good takeaway for developers as well. Make more sustainable buildings. It's just going to give you more returns than.
I think academically and the private sector led research is sort of combined to a point now that there is a consensus. And even if the business case wasn't strong, even if those variables in the cash flow, like you're going to get a rental premium, or you're going to get lower yields, and you're going to get higher capital values. It's the It's the fact that it's now in our, it's the decision making, it's the conscious of us. We need to start doing this. It doesn't matter whether we get these returns or not. It's actually giving back and making sure that as a collective, the industry is doing better.
That's an interesting point as well, because I think real estate contributes to about maybe 40% of the global carbon footprint. Right? So if there is one industry which can actually make an impact and have the most impact, it's definitely the real estate industry. Right? So, and I think it's high time that people started.
And I think with the current trends of hybrid working and looking at space more efficiently, the types of spaces that we want people to work in, maybe taking in less space but better quality space, also drives home that there's a business case to develop these buildings, because businesses might not take as much space on, but the environment that it creates for the workforce when there's talent competition is going to be a lot better. So it's becoming more human-centric and people-centric rather than just looking at profits.
And there's also this point that we're starting to see more and more residential buildings which have office spaces, like maybe like a small co-working, maybe like a working cafe, built right into the building. And it's second order effect, because now people don't need to commute to the office, and we kind of save there, right? So even if the building itself is not high on sustainability, but the building is enabling less commute than what they would otherwise have done. And that also makes a very strong case.
And I think that, again, that generation, well, the generation behind me, because I'm getting older, thriving in that kind of environment where they can, the freelance, more nomadic, jobs can be done. I don't want to work. I don't want to be doing the slog of a 9 to 5 or even longer. I want to be able to choose how I work, where I work, flexible working. And all of those, as you say, those models create that environment for that generation.
You don't have to tell me that, because I have 70 people in my office that are constantly trying to convince me that they don't need to be in an office. And I try to make the opposite argument. But broadly, even we're kind of sold that, especially if you're in the knowledge economy, you probably don't need to go into an office on a daily basis. So we have a hybrid policy, as do most companies right now. So, but maybe just talking about that a little. How do you think commercial real estate developers and owners could possibly react to this? Is a generational shift, right? So pre-pandemic, of course, there was hybrid work environments, but it was really small, right? It was a very small percentage of the population. And now the world has completely changed. Now, how does a real estate developer react to a generational shift that happens in 2 years? And how do they kind of maybe repurpose their buildings, or how should they really be thinking about development?
Well, it goes back to that point of where the question started, which is having the credentials to attract occupiers in. So, having more open spaces, having more social spaces within the environments that get people. And I think probably we're all working in that way, that we go to the office to undertake certain tasks, solving problems that we might be facing, or innovation, thought leadership type things we can only really do when we're sat around or in certain parts of a building discussing them. So I think developers just need, going back to sort of 101 real estate investment, is the cash flow is driven by knowing what occupiers want, and occupiers want flexibility,
right?
And they want highly innovative and sustainable spaces. So that they would be the areas. So there's more of an interplay between the landlord and tenant relationship, or the developer and occupier relationship, than just saying, here's a building, sign a 20-year lease, and we'll see you again in 20 years. It's much more responsible in terms of it's not just left for the tenant to do. So I think the best spaces, and I keep saying about ICD, but that was launched. That was taking tenants during COVID, which is a particularly challenging time. Obviously now, there's those. It'll be 98%.
You've got a signature project.
So there's a lot to be said for this type of these types of developments, that these showcase what can be done, and they showcase with evidence that there is demand from global allies to take that space on. And within that building, there was a whole range of different leasing models from smaller flexi space to large floor plans and adaptive and responsive floor plans. So that would be the general message, I think.
Oh, fair enough. No, I agree with you on that. Like the fundamental dynamics behind the commercial real estate industry has changed.
Yeah.
Right. So it's no longer, as you said, it's not really like a landlord tenant relationship. It's really more of what is the end goal, because I know that a lot of the residential real estate sector, the resi sector is actually moving a lot faster.
Yeah.
We're seeing like co-living spaces and community spaces and so many others that are coming up, and they're kind of pulling tenants to continue being inside the house and not leave, right? And they're making a very strong case, right?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of our customers who are in the co-living industry, and a lot of them in the student housing industry, etc. And they've moved very quickly on this shift, and we're seeing a lot of engagement, and the market is very receptive to it, right? So whether it is kind of repurposing, let's say, a 3-bedroom apartment into like a 2-bed plus study, or whether it is kind of like putting up an extra floor in the building, which is just like a co-working kind of a floor. So they've done quite a lot on the resi side to kind of like keep people in. Maybe commercial real estate has not moved as quickly. And maybe I think the industry is kind of like figuring out what is their role in this shift.
There will be some opportunities, there'll be some challenges, as there always is when tides turn. So I think, well, as a general that's where the world is seemingly heading.
No, fair enough. Now let's talk a little about technology in real estate itself, right? So real estate and technology, I think, have had I wouldn't say like it's a little complicated relationship, and I only say that because for the size of the opportunity that the industry presents, when we look at the penetration of technology in the industry, it's far lower than a lot of the other industries that we see. And looks like things are changing, but maybe it's not where it is in a lot of the other verticals that we see. Right? Do you have any thoughts behind why that is so? Why is like real estate industry a little slower to adopt technology than other industries?
I mean, it's a difficult question. I agree that it's probably been slow to adapt, slow to adopt, and slow to innovate generally. Perhaps it's going back to the whole sort of clunkiness of the transaction and dealing with people and various stakeholders, and maybe there's a solution there that can improve that. Certainly within the valuation space and bank risk taking. There's a role for autonomous valuations to sort of bridge that gap, so that there isn't there's better data now. There's a platform for technology so that banks can make quicker decisions, more cost-effective decisions, and hopefully that leads to consumers getting a better deal. And of course, we're in an environment now where consumers would want a better deal if they're taking bank lending on. So there's those variations. The industry as a whole, so even if you take the example of valuation and commercial valuation, probably more so than residential, it's still a fairly closed industry. I mean, there's certain key information that a valuer needs, and we try the best we can to do that through comparative data. We try and look at a transaction, but we don't have all the details about that transaction. We don't understand all the lease mechanics. So whether we'll be in a world where we can walk down the street and see see the cash flow of that building and hold our phones up to that, and live in that transparent world, or put a set of goggles on and it all shows us the dollar signs of these buildings. But that's always been an issue, and that's not Dubai specific. That's that's even the mature markets of the world have this sort of secrecy and lack of willingness to share information across the board. So technology obviously embedded breeds efficiency, doesn't it? And one of the things I think, when we go back to what we were just discussing about co-working and remote working, that wasn't there because of probably trust or lack of trust.
Right.
I think during COVID, it was a necessity. It wasn't another option.
Right.
So we've kind of overcome that a little bit. Perhaps in the transactional world of real estate, technology will solve problems, but we need to break the trust of, I need to see the lawyer, I need to see the estate agent, I need to see the surveyor.
Right.
So they're all embedded in our sort of decision making that those things could happen. But of course, one of the criticisms or one of the challenges of real estate as an asset class is that you need a lot of money to diversify, and technology is innovating around indirect investment forms and fractionalization and buying units of a shopping mall in Asia or Dubai or wherever it might be. That's going to be the advantage, because it'll open up the market to more people. So that's where I would say, hopefully explain why there might be some challenges, but where the opportunities might lie.
Interesting. So for someone who reads the book, what could be something that they would get from this book that they're unlikely to get from the internet?
Okay, so I think, as I said, I think it puts views on. So it's not just it's not just layers and layers of raw data. It's looking at things from an impartial perspective. So as an academic, I don't sit with, I don't sit on a perch, but I don't sit with any sort of views about what I should be saying and supporting the market if I wanted to benefit from it. So I think because it's impartial, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be quite objective in that sense. So I think people will appreciate the fact that there's a lot of information that is contained. People come here, they don't necessarily understand the historic context. They might not understand some of the processes in terms of, when it comes to taking on a mortgage, what things might you have to consider. So again, it's not written in any heavy academic sense, but I've tried to use academic skills and tools to present how someone might actually view Dubai. And I think going back to what I said about one of the books that I read about being able to switch off and really support why you're investing here is having a plan. And that starts off with, how do you actually assess what that 10-year DCF model might look like if I'm buying in Dubai? And of course, then if we live through any uncertain times that we live through, you just revisit that and say, these were the reasons. I think when you start questioning why you buy in a certain real estate market, it's because you haven't really thought about what you're getting from it and what the merits are. What other things? So again, there is an educational side to it. Again, trying to piece together all the legislation, and I do say at the start of the book, a book on Dubai real estate could take many forms, and this is just one way. So with a sort of chartered surveyor hat on, an academic hat on, with a view that even an agent who comes to Dubai, they want to be better. They want to be knowledgeable to their clients. They want different ways to present information to clients to give them a better service. I hope that by looking at this book, they might get inspiration as to how they might articulate
fantastic
some views on opportunities and present that in a way that people are talking about financial decisions elsewhere. So
nice.
I hope it's an interest to a wide audience. As I say, I get questioned a lot about various things, and those questions come up time and time again. So I've tried to answer them in the book as well. So as I say, it's 12 chapters, 300 pages. There's a lot of content. It is, data informed. I've worked with a lot of well-respected professionals as well. It's not just all me. Some acknowledgements to people who've inputted their thoughts and their years of experience here as well on certain aspects. So it certainly wasn't a single single race. But yeah, so I just think, as I said, I think it's long overdue.
Yeah.
There are books on Dubai, and they've taken, they've talked different aspects of it. They've talked about different time periods. Of course, one of the advantages is that it's an up-to-date book. It talks, about the recency of what's being done.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think, I hope it covers enough for people to be interested in it.
Fantastic. Now I'm really excited for the launch of the book. So for those people listening in, we're going to leave a copy. We're going to leave a link to where you can buy a copy of this book. I'm presuming it's going to be on Amazon and all the...
It's currently on Amazon. It's pre-ordering now. It's officially out next Tuesday. But people can order the book now for it to be delivered shortly after that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we're going to leave a link to that in the description. So please make sure that you use that to place your copy, place your order for your copy. I think we're kind of like running out of time, and we've covered most of what we wanted to cover today. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Waters. This was super insightful. And thank you once again for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right.